So, we've got these huge, ambitious global goals for a sustainable future, right? But the big question is, how do we actually do it? How do we make them work on the ground without, accidentally making things even worse? Well, today, we're going to dive into a new scientific framework that's designed to make our policies smarter, more predictable, and way more effective.
Okay, so here's the game plan. We'll kick things off with the core challenge, which is going to force us to totally rethink what sustainability even is. Then, we'll introduce this new idea called intervention science, see how it actually models the real world, and then watch it in action with a fascinating case study from India. And finally, we'll wrap up by looking at what this all means for creating smarter policies for all of our futures.
All right, so let's get into it. We've got these incredible global goals for a better planet. But, and this is a big but, the real headache is making them happen. How do you take a goal that's meant for the entire world and make it work in one specific city or one region without sparking a whole new set of problems?
It all kind of started here, with this classic definition from way back in 1987. This one sentence laid the groundwork for pretty much everything that followed, including the big UN Sustainable Development Goals, or SDGs. It's all about that core idea, that classic balancing act between what we need now and what future generations are going to need.
But, and here's the tricky part, you can't just copy and paste these global goals. It's definitely not a one-size-fits-all situation. Every single country, every single region has to figure out its own custom approach. This whole process is what experts call SDG localization. And believe me, it is a beast of a problem. And this is where things can go horribly wrong. Even policies with the absolute best intentions can backfire in spectacular ways. It's the law of unintended consequences. The classic example is the cobra effect, where the government offered a reward for dead cobras, so people started breeding more cobras just to cash in. A classic case of good intentions leading to a total mess. So how do we avoid falling into these traps? Well, the researchers behind this paper argue that first, we have to completely rethink what sustainability even means to us.
And this is a really, really important shift in thinking. A lot of us think of sustainability like a finish line. You hit your clean water target, boom, you're done. Sustainable forever, right? But this new view says, not so fast. Sustainability isn't a goal you achieve once. It's a state you constantly have to maintain against all the different pressures trying to push you backwards.
And that leads us to the real heart of the matter, resilience. A system isn't sustainable just because it hits some target. It's sustainable because it's resilient, because it can take a hit, like a financial crisis or a drought, and still keep on ticking. It's all about being tough and adaptable, not just checking a box next to a target.
Okay, so if sustainability is really all about resilience, what do we do? Well, the paper introduces a pretty cool solution, a new framework called intervention science, and it's all built on this powerful model they call the logic of being.
This visual here kind of breaks it all down. At the very core is the being. Now that sounds abstract, but it could be anything. A single person, a family, a whole city. That being lives inside an environment made up of its neighbors, and it's all influenced by the policymaker's administration. A system's health really depends on how all these layers interact.
So let's unpack that a little. The being is just whatever system we're trying to help, and its capability is its power to get good stuff done. So when you think about it, an SDG target like zero hunger isn't sustainability itself. It's a capability we're aiming for. The real mission isn't just to hit the target, it's to build a system that can sustain that capability, to make it resilient.
Okay, so that's the big idea. Sounds cool in theory, right? But how do you actually use it? Well, this framework translates into a really powerful three-part toolkit that lets you analyze policies before you ever roll them out. First up, differential impact analysis. This basically predicts how much a policy is actually going to move the needle. Next, stability profile modeling. This asks the really important question. Okay, we made a change, but is it going to last? How resilient is it? And finally, collateral impact modeling. Think of this as the Cobra effect detector. It's the early warning system that looks for all those unintended side effects before they happen. I love this graph. Think of it like a dashboard for policymakers. You can map out any potential policy based on how much impact it's going to have and how stable that impact will be. Where do you want to be? That top right green quadrant. High impact, high stability. That's the sweet spot. That's where you find change that actually works and lasts.
And here's how it spots those pesky side effects. Let's say you have a policy to boost how much maize you grow. This model can show you how that exact same policy might affect something else, like groundnut production. It could be good, It could be bad. But the most important thing is you're not flying blind. You see it coming.
So you take all this complex analysis, the impact, the stability, the side effects, and you boil it all down to one single powerful number, the Sustainable Intervention Score, or SI score. This gives policymakers a complete picture, balancing what a policy is meant to do with its stability and all its potential ripple effects.
All right, theory is one thing, but does this actually work in the real world? Let's find out. We're going to look at how this whole framework was put to the test on a really important agricultural policy question in the state of Karnataka, India. So for this case study, each district in the state of Karnataka was treated as a being, and its environment was all of its neighboring districts. Then they asked a pretty straightforward question. Hey, what would happen if we handed out 20% more fertilizer? Would we get more maize?
And whoa, these heat maps tell a really fascinating story. The first one shows the impact on maize. Some districts get a huge boost, others not so much. The second one shows the side effect on groundnuts. Some places get a little help, but others actually get hurt. And that third map shows stability. The big takeaway here? A single, one-size-fits-all policy creates this incredibly complex patchwork of results. There are winners, there are losers, and the stability is all over the place.
And this chart, this is the grand finale. The SI scores give you a simple, ranked list showing exactly where this fertilizer policy would be the most sustainable. It's a fantastic idea for districts like Kodagu and Bengaluru Urban, but a really bad one for a place like Chitradurga. This is what smart, targeted, data-driven policy looks like. It's not about one answer for all of India, it's about finding the right answer for the right place. Super important for a country as vast and diverse as India.
Okay, so let's pull back from the case study for a minute. What does all this really mean for the future of sustainable development, not just in India, but everywhere?
So, what are the big lessons here? Let's break it down. First, and this is huge, sustainability isn't just hitting a target, it's about resilience. Second, we have to look at every policy and analyze it for how stable it is and what side effects it might have. Third, powerful data modeling like this can actually help us predict those complicated outcomes. And finally, all of this lets us move away from clumsy one-size-fits-all rules and towards smart, targeted policies that actually work.
This work, by the way, comes from a paper called Towards an Intervention Science for Sustainable Development. And if you find this stuff as fascinating as I do, you should definitely check out more of the work being done by the folks at the Web Science Lab at IIT Bangalore. They're doing some amazing things.
And all of this leaves us with a really big, kind of profound question. For forever, making policy has been a bit of a shot in the dark, right? A lot of guesswork, a lot of crossed fingers. But if we now have the tools to simulate the future, to test drive our biggest ideas before we even launch them, can we finally start designing a world that isn't just prosperous, but one that's truly, deeply, and resiliently sustainable?